his son was following his orders. "I said I'm perfectly capable of handling my own bags, thank you." Hannah Craigston tried to stay out of the reach of the man who had offered to take her bags. Her nose wrinkled at the smell coming off him. She couldn't control the reaction. "Now, dadgummit, a pretty lady like you hadn't ought to be lugging heavy bags around in this heat," the man insisted. "Ain't no need for you to act stuck up. I'm just trying to help you. Give me them carpet bags and I'll take 'em right on down to Miss Annie's." "Where?" A look of surprise appeared on the man's grimy, bearded face. "Why, Miss Annie's. It's the best cat house in town. I figured that's where a gal who looks as fine as you would be working." He reached for the bags again, and again Hannah avoided him. But then she set the bags on the ground at her feet and said, "Wait just a moment, sir." Now the man looked confused and stood there for a couple of seconds with his mouth hanging open before he said, "Huh? You believe that I'm here to work in a house of ill repute? Well, as nice looking as you are, you could make a heap of dinero." She stepped forward and slapped him, her right hand flashing up to crack solidly against the whiskery cheek and jerk his head to the side. "How dare you make such an improper assumption?" Ever since this man had accosted her, she'd expected the stagecoach's driver or guard or one of the hostlers to come to her assistance, or even one of the townspeople loitering nearby. However, it appeared she was going to be forced to take matters into her own hands, and to Hannah, once an idea had formed in her mind, it was meant to be put into action. So she'd slapped him as he so richly deserved. Now, surely he would leave her alone. Instead, his features twisted in sudden anger, and he lunged forward, reaching out with both hands to grab her arms. "I ain't letting no soiled dove haul off and wallop me like that," he said as he jerked her toward him. "Just for that, I reckon you owe me a little something." The words broke off in a startled yowl that also ended abruptly as a huge figure loomed up behind the man and clamped both hands around his neck. He let go of her arms as the man who had him by the throat lifted him off his feet. His legs kicked futilely as he hung suspended in midair some 6 inches off the ground. Then the giant who had taken hold of her scruffy, odoriferous, insulting tormentor turned and flung him away, like a child discarding a no longer cherished doll. The bearded man landed in the street, and momentum rolled him over several times before he came to a stop face down. He tried to lift his head, groaned, and gave up, letting his face sag back down against the hard-packed dirt. Hannah stared up at her rescuer in awe. His towering height, solid build, and wide shoulders made her think of a tree. He wore canvas trousers, a buckskin shirt, and a wide-brimmed brown hat with a tall crown that was slightly pinched. The butt of a heavy-looking revolver stuck up from the holster on his right hip. A bone handle protruding from a fringed sheath on his left hip told her that he carried a long-bladed knife there. His face was rugged, deeply tanned, and weathered enough to indicate that he wasn't a young man, despite the almost overpowering air of vitality he gave off. The gray in his mustache and the thick brown hair under his hat told the same story. He reached up with his left hand to pinch the brim of that hat as he nodded to her, and said in a deep, powerful, yet somehow gentle voice, "My apologies for the rude welcome you received in our town, ma'am. Or is it Miss?" It's Miss," Hannah heard herself say. "Miss Han—" Loud, angry voices interrupted her. They shouted curses that made Hannah's ears start to warm with embarrassment. The big man looked around at the 4 men who hurried along the street toward them. From the looks of it, they had just emerged from the saloon behind them. The man who had accosted Hannah found the strength to raise his head again, weakly